Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar discussing the administrative features of GP Power Tools. We're thrilled that you've joined us for this webinar today, and we want you to feel free to reach out with any questions that you have by using our Q&A or our chat features in the Zoom presentation. We have a lot of content today, and if we do not address all of your questions during the webinar, we will reach out afterwards. Following the webinar, we plan to send out an email to all participants with the slides attached, but please allow about 48 hours for that email to arrive. Leading our webinar today is Natalie Avery, who has been an accounting software consultant since 1998, working with packages such as Microsoft Dynamics GP, Sage 100, Peachtree, and Solomon. Natalie is also a rock star with reporting and a master at building integrations for our clients. She's well-versed in Smart Connect, Integration Manager, SQL Server and SSRS, GP Report Writer, and Crystal Reports. So please join me in welcoming Natalie as our presenter.
Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm trying to get my slides to go to the next slide. There we go. So, thank you, everyone, for joining this today. This is going to be a list of neat features that this tool that we use often has to offer you. It really is geared mostly towards or GP administrators, I should say, but has all kinds of neat things going on. Now, and what I cover today is not all inclusive as there are so many features. It's difficult to cover all of them. We are going to have a session in a couple months where we discuss the developer tools that are available. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to jump right in. So I don't know how many times you have had an issue with GP, there's an error being thrown, there's something quirky happening, no one can figure out what it is. And one of us GP support consultants ask you, we need a DEX log. We need to jump on with you and create a DEX log, which typically means I have to navigate through the folders, find your GP installation folder, dig a little deeper, find a specific INI file, change some settings in there. One of the neat things this lets you do right from the menu, we call it a one-click logging. You can click the drop down, click start logging, and it will start logging the issue for you. And it's especially helpful when you know, okay, I've opened this window. I know as soon as I click this button or I tab to this field, I'm going to get this error. So you start logging, you make the error happen, and then from there, it even lets you capture screenshots. So that is, and we all probably have a screenshot tool, but built in is right from your menus. You can see right here, you can click that little drop down and capture screenshots. From there, it pops up this little window and it says, okay, I can send the screenshot. I can send the DEX INI settings, the current launch file, which we call the set file. Some of you may have been asked to send us a set file before. And from there, you can click the little email button. This tool does allow you to configure a emailing setup screen. And it works outside of GP's emailing. It is not the same as the GP emailing if you have that set up. It works with the new Office 365 multi-factor authentication. It will even work with just Microsoft Outlook being right there and popping up. Like if you've ever used that feature in the old GP where all you had to do was have your Outlook open, it works with that as well. So it's pretty nifty. And inside the tool, you can see on this screen, if you have your magnifying glass, probably, that my email address is in that very first field at the top. And you would put your GP admin, or you could even put, someone here from LBMC, maybe tech help. and put that in there and it'll automatically send that off to them. It's great when you have a bunch of users and they occasionally have issues. Other really cool things. Um, have you ever logged into GP and maybe you have to access a remote desktop to get to it? And when you open GP and you click on a window, all the words are super tiny and you can't see them. The checkboxes are super tiny. Those are font scaling issues. As soon as you install this tool, it takes care of it. It fixes them. It's actually fantastic. I used it on my own because I also have that issue. Um, and I will tell you that I love this tool. Um, the other thing that it lets you do is it will remember where your window's opened. If you've ever opened Smart List and then it just vanishes and you can't find it, that is another thing that it fixes. Let me go back to this because I forgot to tell you about when you do have a large font that you've set and you open a window and you can't see the far end of it, this tool also fixes that issue. Now, this one is great for new users because we all have turnover. We all have new users that we have to bring in and teach them how to use GP, and we really want to get them working. Um, Built in again, as soon as it's installed, when you have it installed in your GP environment, if you use the Control F feature, this window will pop up and you can type anything in that where it says 1099 in the red circle, you'll see that. I chose 1099s because it's something that you use once a year. You don't always remember exactly how to get back to it or where to find all the different choices around 1099s. And you could type anything. You could type customer, vendor, purchasing, invoices. It will prop up any window with those words in it. And from there, I can double click on it and open that window directly. So it is a great navigation tool. As we all know, GP has so many different windows and so many different features. Sometimes it's difficult for a new user to navigate. Now, this is one that we get a lot of support cases around where I'm trying to go in and post a batch, but somebody left on Friday and left their GP open or left a window open and it still has that batch name listed in it. I cannot post this batch. I cannot figure out who even has it open. So again, right out of the box, after it's installed, this message, I should say, gets changed and it will tell you exactly who it is and who you need to track down and have them close their window. Now this is a neat to have feature. And everybody has a calculator installed on their laptop, computer, your desktop, whatever it is. But sometimes when you are in an environment where you're remoting into a desktop and using GP from there, they've shut everything down. You can't even navigate the start window. You cannot see what other applications are on there. So one of the things that this offers is a Control Shift C. You pop it open, you've got your on-screen calculator. And I don't know about you, but I use my calculator every day. I'm a little too lazy to open, Excel and type in all the numbers and write some formulas when I can just do it on the screen of my calculator. Now, this one is a crowd favorite. So, automatic logout. You can set a time and in here you can see it. This one has been set for 60 minutes. And if you're idle for that long, this tool will log out that user. If you guys are always fighting over user licenses, let's say you own 5 user licenses, but you have 8 people who are trying to use GP, this will, if someone's idle, it knocks them out so someone else can use that. And in addition to, setting this 60-minute or 30-minute, however many minutes you like, you can also exclude or specifically identify users that you want this to work for. I have a few clients who use it, and it has really saved them a lot of time. And the GP administrator does not have to hunt down who's hogging up the license and kick them out. And it does it in what we call a graceful way. The other thing, so this is similar but not the same, is reserve a license for specific users. So again, let's say you have 5 concurrent licenses and you have 8 people trying to use it all the time. The controller goes to log in and they can't get in. Most people would argue they do need to be the person who's in the system. So you can reserve licenses for specific users so they never have to go around and find out who needs to get kicked out of GP. Now, now we're moving on to user activity. This is a GP admin tool. It is also, if you have ever had to go through any of those security audits for your GP ERP system, you know that those auditors don't love GP. GP has some older architecture when it comes to that, and the reporting in there is not overflowing with information. This allows you to, and the features that have been put into this tool are not only graphs and charts. You can see over here, it gives me a nice little chart of who's logging in, when they're logging in, what time of day is busiest. Maybe I need to do some maintenance on GP and I can look at this and I can see, okay, everybody's usually in the morning, not so much in the afternoon. Maybe I can get some work done in the afternoon on GP. Now, another thing that it lets you do is it adds additional fields to your user setup. Things like the email addresses, um, let me take a look, their Active Directory name. If you want to track inside here the division, the department, the position, and then you also get some user-defined fields for other possible fields you might want to use to track the users. Now we are going to move on to usability. So, proactive password expiration. What does that even mean? What that means is if you have to abide by certain security rules, like people must change their password every 30 days, every 60, 90, whatever it is, when that time comes and goes, all of a sudden they can't get into GP anymore. This tool actually lets you give them warnings to know how many days in advance this is going to happen for them. They'll get little pop-up messages saying, your password is about to expire in 14 days. So that I find very useful because we do on occasion get users who, um, they start support cases because they're locked out of GP and they cannot figure out why. The other thing that is I find useful is when you have to put in that system password. So most of you know when I say system password, that does not mean the SA password, but that secondary system password that lets you into security features, some other payroll features, things like that. You can turn this on, and it does when you install it, it's already on. So you turn it off if you didn't want it on. But once a session, if I type that in, it does not continue to ask me for it if I keep opening that screen. Personally, I find that very useful, especially when I'm working on security projects for our clients. Now, this last one, the keep windows visible, I referred to in the first few slides, and that is specifically my favorite example is Smart List. When you open Smart List, it says it's open on the bottom of your screen when you hover over GP, but you cannot find it anywhere. And they say the cause of this is that, let's say you were in an environment where you had 2 or 3 windows, you dragged SmartList over to one of those extra monitors, but then you took your laptop and you went home and you don't have all those monitors. The next time you try to open SmartList, it's looking for that monitor and it's not there, so it just opens unseen at the bottom. This tool prevents that from happening. another Windows positioning tool in here. So this one will let you, let's say you've developed a system. Let's say, and I'm going to use the collections management people because they usually have to have a lot of different information up on the screen when they're trying to call and get money. So this one, if they have a system, I have the customer record in one corner. I've got the list of their invoices they owe us in another. I've got some reports down in a couple other windows. I can set certain windows to always remember their position, and as soon as they open, they go straight to that. So I don't have to spend any time getting this one in that corner, another one in the other corner. It just does it for me. Now, here's one. If you only have one or two companies, this feature is not that exciting. But if you're one of our clients that have 10, 15, 20, 60, 120, 200. And yes, there are definitely clients here that have that many companies in their list. Sometimes they're archive companies or they have a lot to, manage. And it's difficult to find them in the list. You can reorder the sort on this dropdown. You can do a custom sort. You can tell it to go by the name of the company, and you can also tell it to go to sort by the company ID, which is not something people usually pay attention to. But if you were to ever look at the list of companies in your Dynamics database, you would see that every company does indeed have a company ID, and that is the order in which they were created in GP. So if that is something that's useful to you to have it sorted that way, this tool does allow you to do that. Now, this one is the big hit often. And I will tell you that this tool used to come with GP. It was an extra download. You could install it and there was no extra charge for it. And we had so many clients that use this feature. It lets you change the color of the screens and the windows in GP based on the company that you're in. So again, going back to the previous slide, if you have 20 companies or even 5 companies, if you've ever logged into your test company to try something, forgot you were in there and just started working away, this is very helpful visual tool that lets you change each company's colors so that you can just glance at it and know which um, which company you're in. I'm actually going to show you the screen in here because this slide does not do it justice. My GP Power Tools desktop. I'm going to go right down here. Company color schemes. Oh, there's my password. My system password. So on here, I can choose which company from my list is in here. Then it already comes with schemes, color schemes that are pre-built and put together for you. Right now, I am using one of the pre-built dynamic schemes, or I can actually click on each individual one and select it on my own using these, or I can even use this little tool where I pick the colors. Or if your company has logo colors and the RGB values for it, you can do that too. But back to the slides. So this tool is fantastic for troubleshooting. There have been many times where we see errors, we cannot figure out why this error is happening. Is the error caused by one of your third-party ISVs? Is it base GP? Microsoft always wants to blame it on the ISVs. In this tool, I can go in there and enable or disable any of the features for testing. I can also enable and disable the alternate modified status window. So that one to me is where this tool is really useful. And that is because on some of my alternate modified windows, I might be looking at a custom form or I might be using a custom report. it's throwing fits. Is the problem GP? Is the problem the report? This allows me to do some really good testing without having to jump through 5 or 6 different hoops to get that done. Again, I told you guys there were so many tools. This one is useful if you are a report writer. You are writing some SQL reports. You are even in the ugly report writer tool that GP gives you. Um, you are in Smart Connect, or not Smart Connect. Oh, Smart Connect would actually be useful for this as well. Smart List is what I was trying to say. You're in Smart List, you're trying to find a field, you don't know the name of it. This will open the screen you're on, show you the resource information. And as you can see here, I find the table, I open it, it tells me all of the fields are in there. I can see the display name fields. I can see the names that they have in the SQL database. If I need to write a SQL query to pull some data out, if I'm building an integration and it's coming from third-party data, they want to send me a 50-character invoice number, I can easily look in here and say, sorry, we can only take 20 characters. And not only does it show me all of this information, there's this preview data button that I can click. And once I click it, it generates the SQL query. I can copy and paste that into SQL if I want to. I can also click the execute button down at the bottom corner and see the data, and I can save it. At the top, I can throw a name in there. I can save it and let users run it. Let's say it's something they need to see. If a certain value's in there and they can't see that value from the screens, I thought I had another screen for that, sorry. Um, I find it very useful. Again, this is not something you would unleash with your base users. This is more of a GP admin, super user type thing. If you have really technical type controllers and anyone at that level who is also helping to pull together data and report, this is very useful. So more security things that it does. Um, Reports, there are tables in GP that we'll shoot you over a query and say, run this query, or create this view, and then we'll attach it to a smart list for you. And once a year, when those auditors show up and they want to know everything that every user in GP can possibly get into, it populates. There are some records that do not get put into those tables. This tool, as soon as you install it, runs an update that inserts everything into there. One of the other things that it does is it gives you an alternative to Power User. And if any of you have been using GP for any length of time, you do know what Power User is. And if you were using it 5, 10 years ago, you probably all had Power User roles. But again, if you've ever gone through a security audit, they do not like the Power User because the Power User bypasses all GP security, really. It does not care who has rights to what in tables and tasks and roles. It just lets you in. So one of the other things this does is when you install it, it installs a role called super user, which does have to respect the tasks that are allowed and not allowed. And you can edit this and give it to people that you want to still have a lot of access to the system, but we don't want to give them Power User, and that makes our security auditors happy. Sticking with the theme of security, again, a GP admin feature, and that is I have a user. I've given them rights to, let's say, sales transaction entry, but every time they open the screen, for a Canadian customer, they get a weird error that says you don't have access, but they do have access, and I cannot figure out why. they don't have access. So what this tool lets you do is turn it on. So this is it. This is and if you go back here, you'll see all I do is go to this little drop down. I go to my security profiler. It opens this window, which is a blank window initially. And as soon as I click on something, and what I would do is I would turn it on right before I'm about to click on that window. I turn on that window, I click on it, and it captures every single security hit that window um, picks up. From there, I can look at the list and go, oh, well, you look at that. There's an exchange rate entry window that is trying to open, and I can't, and this user does not have rights to it. That allows me to easily zero in on the real problem instead of hunting and pecking around. I don't know if any of you ever spent time digging through all those tasks and roles. It could take you half a day. Once I have it open, I can click on any of the lines, and there is this security button. Once I click on that, then I have all the information. I mean, this window is probably one of my favorite windows because it helps me so much. What it tells me here is, oh, power user can get to it, because what can't power user get to? But it also tells me, oh, I guess admin system 2 can get to that. Oh, and these other purchasing agent, purchasing managers can also get to that. Now I know where I'm looking. And not only can I see that, I can also see all the users that also have access to it. And these screenshots are from my own GP, so everybody has access to everything in there right now. Saves you so much time when you're trying to build out security. Now, in addition to just telling you where these roles are and where they can be found, it will also create roles for you. So one of the exciting things you can do with it is you open the security profiler. It has a blank little screen. I start clicking on all the things I need to do. I enter, AP data entry. I post it. I might enter a vendor. I enter a PO. It captures all of those things, and then I can tell it, you know, before I do it, I have to start the capture of my resources, which I forgot to mention, but I do that. Then I tell it to stop. This little window down here opens up, and I can give this task ID a whole new name, and it only does the things that I've done through my clicking. So it is, to me, a fantastic tool. We have some clients where we have had to go through their, 20-year-old security roles that are not really working well anymore and rebuild all of them based on the users and their jobs, and this tool is just fantastic for that. More logs, more security auditor, exciting stuff. So there's a bunch of reports that come along with this tool, and they give you insight. So you don't have to go and write SQL security select queries and give them to the auditors. You can click on the logs here. You can print them. You can export them to a CSV. You can email them. And on this screen, you can see that I click the export button, and then I can send them to a file, or I can send them to an email. He also gives you this security analyzer with over 40 built-in security queries. It looks for differing security between companies and produces reports for you. Now, this one is troubleshooting issues that you cannot reproduce. And I always get those. Someone will say, this happens, or my GP shuts down when I go to email, or I generate a check batch. It shuts down sometimes, but not all the time. And then you get on the phone and we try to capture the issue and we just cannot reproduce it while I'm on the phone. Of course, we hang up and it happens again. Um, this tool, if installed, will let you configure the triggering of capturing a log when that happens. So then I don't have to be there over your shoulder watching for it. We can just have it looking for when it happens again, capture the log, get that over to me, and then we can troubleshoot the problem. So this takes us into database slash system users. So let's say you're moving from one server to another. GP does not really let you take those passwords because they're encrypted on one machine. It lets you take the users, but the passwords never work once we move over to the next server. This tool will let me change everyone's password at once. It'll email them what this new password is. I can set, and you can see in here, I can set it to one specific password for everyone. And then using this section over here, I can force them to change their password at login. Or I can have it automatically generate passwords and email that to them. So it's a time saver for sure if you've ever had to open up every user and change their password. In addition, over here in the second section, which I did not put a red box around, I can check off all my users, some of my users, and I can apply these advanced SQL Server options like enforce password policy, enforce password expiration. Currently, without this tool, I would have to open every single user. And if you have dozens of users, this can get tedious. I've actually had to do it for a client before. um, it would have been great to have this tool, check them all off, enforce their password policy and their password expiration and be done with it. What took me, you know, half hour to an hour would take me 5 minutes. And this is the little email that it will send out once it changes that. And you can change the email, you can change the language that you have in there. This is another neat security or user setting feature that is in the GP Power Tools package, and that is copying user settings between users. And what this basically lets me do is pull up two different users, compare what they have, and then turn on or turn off what I want to copy over. I might want them to do some of what the source user can do, but not all of it. So this is a neat tool that lets me copy some of the stuff, but not everything. Now, this one is more of again, GP admin, SQL admin type tool. We often find issues are happening or certain data updates are not happening, we'll say, due to what we call triggers on the tables in the database. So this tool, I honestly would have to go into SQL and write some queries or look in certain places that not everyone knows to look to find what tables have triggers. Specifically, I'm getting an error on the customer table every time. I can't save the customer table every time I update an address. Why is that happening? I could open this, find my customer table in here and see if there's a trigger. I can disable it from here and test to see, oh, look at that. I turned off that trigger and now I can save my customer, which helps me identify an issue so much faster. And then I can start to dig into that. Otherwise, it's difficult. Sometimes it's a wild goose chase to find these issues. So this feature, export GP settings, if you have two environments, and when I say two environments, I mean you have a test environment that has SQL installed, GP installed, it does not in any way touch your production GP environment. Sometimes we say test environment just means a test database. But in this case, it would be a completely separate server where maybe you're trying an upgrade to something, you're trying to install a new feature that if you installed it, it would definitely affect your production. There's many reasons people have test environments. And once we get certain settings working the way we want, sometimes we have to take screenshots and then go over and open all the windows where they work. This feature lets you export those from your test environment and then go over into your production environment and import them in. So another nice feature to have. Now, I've not talked about all of them, but I've talked about a lot of them. And some of the other nice ones that I did not spend time on are the company login screens. Uh, if you have a list of companies and they all start with the same 2 or 3 words, and then the end of that company name is what defines which company it is, but you can't see it in the dropdown, this tool will expand that login screen so you can see the entire company name. Now, if none of you have that problem, that is fantastic. But we definitely have companies or clients that have 20 or more companies. They all start with the same name, and then they'll say Japan on the end or Germany on the end. And you cannot see which ones they are. You kind of have to guess at it and hope you get to the right one. So this will expand those screens and let you see the whole company name, making it easier for you to get to the right company the first time. Now, there's also the DEX INI control. I talked about that a little bit when I said, oh, this lets you um, email the deck settings. It also lets you update the deck settings and things. Examples of what we have in that DEX INI file would be certain switches. The one I use the most is a smart list enhanced export. So users will export from smart list to an Excel file and all the data is jumbled. So we put this switch in there and all the data comes through great. So we use that a lot. It does sometimes, that switch sometimes takes out the pretty formatting, but at least we get the data that we're looking for. There's other things, logging we turn on and off. There's a lot of things that it does. There's integration manager switches, there's macro switches, and not that I'm trying to turn this into a DEX I&I webinar, but there's even more than that. In order to make those changes, you have to go to every machine, open up the DEX I&I file, type out what you want or remove what you don't want. This tool has a feature that lets you open that up, add in the feature you want, and it will roll it out to all of the clients. Same thing with the alternate modified settings. It also has a tool that looks to see, I don't know if you've ever had you used to use collections management, you don't use it anymore. Every time you open this company, you get a little window that says, this product needs to be upgraded. It will, it has a feature where you open it up, it looks for product mismatches and tells you exactly what they are. So you can take care of it or disable them or upgrade them, whatever you need to do. It also has a database validation tool that looks for tables that might not be in the correct format for the version you're in. You know, maybe in version GP18, it did not have the extended field, which I'm pretty sure it did. But in the new version, it does, and it does not find that in your table. It will tell you uh, this table needs to be updated. Let's see, and it lets you, again, back up all users, reset their passwords if you're doing a server migration. Many of our clients these days are moving to a new server or they're moving to a server in the cloud. So these are useful features. And we reached the end of my exciting webinar talking about cool, neat stuff. And all of these things that I've talked about today are available in the base model or the base version. This tool has many upgrade versions, which we didn't talk about today, but we'll talk about in the future. It is $550 annually, so you do have to pay that every year. and the prices are going up in 2026, but for that price, to me, it is such a time savings if you have to do any of these things over and over. I think it is well worth it. He also, so Winthrop Development Consultants is the developer of this tool. The main developer came out of Microsoft, which is why this tool used to be available for free with your GP, but he started his own company and now he is selling it. It's a great tool. If you find it to be overwhelming, he has tons of videos on his page. Their support is fantastic. And you think he was paying me, but he's not. His features and tools have just helped me so much. I do get excited about this. So I'm going to conclude and turn this over to Dawn. And she
Thank you
is
very much, Natalie. I can't believe how much this tool can do. So we've got a series of questions that summarize the different features that Natalie spoke about today. So if you are interested, if you think any of these features would help your organization, you can click as many as apply to you. So this is the first of four because there were just so many. I couldn't get all of them on the same poll question, so bear with me there. There's the easy access and emailing of information. There's the GP window navigation assistance, the helpful messaging, the automatic logout and user license release, and your ability to specify users that will always have access to available seats. And then user-focused usability features such as password warnings. We use something very similar to that at LBMC Tech. So I'm going to give you a few more minutes, or not minutes, moments here before I close this down. And I'm going to, if you've made your choices, I'm going to move on to the next one. And here's a new slate of features. The ability in the user activity logs to see login history, Windows specific position settings, company specific colors. It sounds like such a simple thing, but when you're working with a lot of different data, I think that would be a really handy feature to have, to know that you're in the right screens. Dictionary control and or data information lookup. And then the last one on this particular list, preview of SQL script results. So click any or all that you think would be helpful for your company. And I'm going to wrap up this particular poll question. I'll be closing it down. All right. And here's another list of the features, the user security profiler that Natalie talked about, the security audit logs and analyzer. The one that really caught my attention was troubleshoot issues not easily reproduced. There's nothing more frustrating than having a problem, and when you're talking to your support person, you just can't replicate it. It's like, am I going crazy here? So I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful feature. Copy settings between users and export GP settings from one environment to another. And an example of that would be from test to production. So I'll give this a few more moments. And I'm going to close this down. And then just one final question, a very simple yes or no. Sign me up for a free trial of GP Power Tools. Free is nice. All right, and I will end this. Okay, I wanted to alert everyone to the upcoming GP office hours coming up in October. We'll be taking a look at GP and those interested in moving to Sage Intacct. We've had a number of our GP clients who ultimately have selected Sage Intacct as their cloud solution, and we'll be talking about why they did. What were the business cases that led them to do that? In November, we're going to be returning to GP Power Tools, and we'll be doing an overview of the developer tool. I wanted to let everyone know that all of our GP office hour sessions are available on YouTube. So if there was a month where you couldn't go to GP office hours, we have a whole library, and there's a specific playlist that you can click to see what the different sessions were. So in this particular screenshot that I captured, you can see, you know, Sandy did one on inventory. We took a look at a Power Platform and what you could do with the Power apps. Brian Wilton's When It's Time to Purge Data. And then some of the earlier sessions back in the January, February, and March timeframe, where we compared, much like we're going to do in October with Sage Intacct, we compared GP with Business Central. So if you click on the check out the library, that will be in the slides that I'm sending you. You can get to YouTube. We'll take a look at the next slide. Community Summit is just right around the corner. And if you are attending Community Summit in Orlando, or if you're in the Orlando area but not necessarily going to the conference, we'd love for you to join us for dinner the Sunday night before the conference kicks off. I believe over the weekend they have some pre-conference sessions, and the main event kicks off on Monday morning. But we have rented out the entire boat. It is a restaurant called The Moor, and it's at the Gaylord Orlando. So if you're staying at the Gaylord, you do not have to worry about transportation anywhere. It's right there on the show, or on the property. And we'd love for you to join us. Also, if you are going to register for Community Summit but have not, you can get an additional 10% discount by using our code. We are very proud of our consultants. And, obviously we believe that we have a deep and talented bench, but we're not the only ones. The organizers at Community Summit recognize the expertise that our consultants have. And these are all of the folks from our team who are going to be presenting at Community Summit. Natalie will be talking about smart lists, but then she and Valerie Sikora will be teaming up to give a presentation on these power tools at Community Summit. Jason Barnes, excuse me, will be talking about the Power Platform, and that's going to be a very fun presentation. He's going to show how it's as easy as building with Legos. And then Sandy Wickman will be doing Dynamics BC versus GP. And I love the subtitle, Calm the Anxious Accountant in You. And then back by popular demand is Mr. Microsoft, our CEO, Brian Wilton, and he'll be doing two popular presentations, one on GP Navigation 101, and then when it's time to purge data in Dynamics GP. And his lengthy experience, he has great tips and tricks for purging data and how to prevent getting into a lot of trouble when you're trying to do that. So those are my announcements. Natalie, thank you so much for the presentation today. Fantastic job. I do not see any questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you at a future GP office hours. Thanks, everyone.